Hi, welcome. My name is Angelique, and today I'm going to be talking about Mercury in Cancer as it relates to astrology. So, if you have this placement or you're just curious or wanting to learn more, this episode is going to touch on the interest and the communication of someone with Mercury in Cancer. If it's your first time listening to me, I've been a student of astrology for over 30 years. So I love to explore the depths of the mind, the psyche, just learning about ourselves. And astrology can do that. While it's good as a predictive tool for the future, it's also a really great tool for learning about yourself, your strengths, what might be some obstacles, and how you can make your life more fulfilling and balanced. So that's how I approach it. And using mythology and symbolism for me is a great way to really understand this placement so we can know more about ourselves and make some better choices. So there's practicality that's going to be here in this episode, but also we're going to start with more of the ethereal, mythological, symbolic, and then really ground it and see what we get. So, Mercury, in and of itself, is a planet that revolves around communication, information, ideas, back and forth, knowledge, and curiosity. So, that's why this episode is going to be focused on what are the interests and the communication style of someone with this placement. So, Cancer, the mythology here, I'm going to talk more about the communication and interest of Cancer in mythology. If you want to know more about the overall broad mythology relates to the sign of Cancer, I have a Sun in Cancer episode podcast that talks more about how that came to be. But Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon is not a planet, so we don't have an actual name for a god like the other planets. Like Jupiter is named for the god Jupiter, but the moon is Earth's moon, and many planets have moons, so there's not really a direct correlation. But I like to use Roman mythology tied to the moon and those gods and goddesses because most of modern Western astrology is rooted in Roman mythology. So that's just how I do it. And when we're looking at Roman mythology, the moon had a few goddesses, Luna being the first one, then we have Hecate, and then we have Diana. And they're kind of a triumvirate, should we say. Usually their three goddesses are different facets of the moon. So when it comes to communication and interest, the communication is going to be things that are maybe darker or more hidden because of that moon quality of the sign of Cancer. So the moon happens at night and yes, it illuminates things, but it's not very direct or indirect. So the communication, when we think of the moon, the way that energy is best channeled is through indirect needs. So either that's jokes, that's passive aggression, but even that is just maybe not being very direct or blunt with other people or sharing information. So symbolism is a big thing because you're not saying things cut and dry. I have Mercury in Cancer placement, so it's bearing out. I love talking about symbolism and analogies and kind of going around these. But the interest also can just relate to nurturing because the Luna goddess of the moon, she was a very nurturing figure and nurturing in the way of very up close emotional connection. So Cancer in the sign of Mercury is really going to be mostly interested and curious about things that are emotionally connected to them, things that they feel emotionally drawn to, things that they can nurture or be nurtured by. There can also be an interest in anything that has to do with reflection, so photography, film, art, anything that is maybe elusive or dreamy or creative just because of that moon energy. We're going to see here You also have a very protective and guarded nature that comes with the communication here. One of the Roman goddesses attached to the moon is Diana, who was a huntress, a protector. She was very fierce and of the forest, which is hidden in nature. The moon is hidden. So that's going to make the communication style maybe hidden to strangers, or what they really think about things, or their ideas, their interests might not be as open or expressed to other people. So there's going to be more, the communication style can be maybe softer, quieter, more introverted, but people would like talking to someone with Mercury and Cancer in the realm of if they were a nurturer, a carer, a counselor, because that style fits so well with nurturing and more domestic caregiving roles. It can get challenging. I'll talk a little more about that, but it can get challenging when there needs to be this directness, this bluntness. So something like business, or something that's very mechanical and technical, um, like working with machinery or cars or something like that, can be more of a challenge for Cancer in this placement, because it's it's not as up close and emotionally connected and nurturing. There needs to be this protection and safety around their ideas, their thoughts, but also they're more interested in caring for other people or providing nurturing. So something like having to do sales or business in a very direct, uh, driven, assertive way can be really hard for them. So, in terms of symbolism, we have Cancer, which is water energy, and it's combined with Mercury, which is air. So, air and water they don't float, they really flow next to each other and might get intertwined here and there, but it's hard for both of them to really connect. Air and water are both kind of elusive in similar ways. If you hold water in your hands, it can easily slip through your fingers, and air is the same way. It's not as tangible, and water we find likes to move, likes to be fluid, but in a more contained way. It doesn't like to venture too far out or do too many different things very quickly. And you think even something like a babbling brook, the water, yes, is moving, but it's a pretty rhythmic way that it's moving. It's not, the water is then not moving to another part of the earth very quickly and babbling in a different way. There's a consistency to the way that it moves, but it is fluid. So the communication, when it needs to be something that's maybe more indirect or fluid or hidden, can be can be really great for someone with this placement. Like I said, something like counseling or photography, film, something where you kind of have to be behind the scenes and be more intuitive about what you're saying, really being intuitive and empathetic in your communication style. It can be really great for that because they are close in that way. These energies together also make it really hard for communication to be clear because you have that water element. So, what someone with Mercury and Cancer is thinking about or trying to communicate might be more intuitive, might be more emotionally driven, and getting that information across to other people might be difficult. So, they might have challenges in people understanding them when they're trying to communicate things directly or scientific or technical. And it could also just be really difficult to learn information that's highly, highly technical that doesn't relate to the emotions or nurturing or creative in any way. But this does make a very artistic, creative, and intuitive placement. So people with Mercury in Cancer can really excel at reading the emotions of other people. So, even in a psychic way. So, it doesn't have to be counseling and therapy, but they can be really good psychics. They can be um, people that just know what people are feeling, and they're able to pick up on that and communicate what other people might need to hear in a nurturing, soft way or atmosphere. Mercury in the sign of Cancer also makes it difficult to do mental work, be pragmatic or logical when the mood of the person is, let's say, like more intense or negative or heavy. And this can happen a lot. So, this person might be interested based on their moods and what's going on. So even if they have a job they like, but it's not emotionally focused in some way, their moods can impact them to the point where they might not be able to do or complete the work if their mood is maybe heavier, more intense, or more negative. And that's why a lot of people with Mercury in Cancer can benefit from having a job that is connected to emotions and their moods that way, so they can still do the work. So a lot of artists have these placements because their moods are what can help their work or drive their work. Even something like history, memory is very strong with Mercury in Cancer. They might always have ideas or thoughts that revolve around history in some way, either their own childhood or history of the world. So, having a job where you can focus on your memories, things that you emotionally connect to, can have more longevity to doing the job where you have to put your emotions completely aside. So, when it comes to communication styles, Mercury in Cancer is going to really respond well to people that have care in how they communicate. Either the way they express themselves is softer or more empathetic or sensitive, that can really draw them in and make them open up more. Mercury in Cancer, like I said, is very protective about their ideas, their thoughts. So sharing that with other people might not happen automatically. So someone who is more of a feels safer, or it just makes them feel at ease, is going to have them open up more. But someone who has maybe a more aggressive or assertive way of communicating, or just very overly serious and doesn't want to talk about anything emotional, it can be difficult. Cancer is a sign of the crab, so if they feel threatened talking to someone, communicating with someone, or at a job where their interests are not accepted or they're being critiqued very harshly, this is going to make them retreat. So, this is a sign where these people can shut down a lot from talking to other people, which is not always good, but they might just completely shut down and not talk to someone if they feel like it's a negative situation. But bringing hobbies and or careers into your life, that if you have Mercury in Cancer, these hobbies and careers that have an emotional resonance with you, and some examples are going to be music, art, um, psychic, healing, intuitive, anything like that. So this could be tarot or oracle, um, readings, going to psychics, doing psychic readings yourself, being also in nature or the forest. It can be really healing, any work that involves that, natural elements, or anything around the home, because the Cancer is all about the home and what it feels nurturing. So, can really benefit from cooking, cleaning, sewing, interior design, decorating, or just working in people's homes or helping them. Any kind of healing professions, medical can be really good, or just even helping a family member, a child, caregiving, that can be of high interest to people with these placements. But even when it comes to consuming like film or TV or movies, people might, with this placement, can feel very happy when they're able to listen to music from their childhood or things that bring up great memories or just anything of the past historical. So it might be really into just learning about a particular section of history. As I said, I have Mercury in Cancer, and kind of this whole podcast is a big poster child for Mercury and Cancer. I'm using history, mythology, and symbol, and like to help people. So those are just some things that you could be interested in, curious about how you communicate. So I'm more of a slow style. So jobs, if you're looking for jobs or career, things where you don't have a lot of pressure to communicate, or you can do it at your own pace, or you can um, communicate in a slower, intuitive, more nurturing way, can maybe be more helpful and bring more balance into your life. All right. Thank you so much, Mercury and Cancer. If this resonated for you, or you just have anything you want to share about this placement, you can leave a comment below. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.